The following is for people who are frequently angry at others when it may not be reasonable. If your anger has a valid reason, some of the following may be helpful, but it is also a good idea to try to problem solve the situation. In other words, determine the reason for the anger and whether you can work with the other person to solve the problem. However, many people have problems managing their anger, which can interfere with effective problem solving. Frequently, such people believe they don't have control over their emotions, especially anger. It's how I feel, I can't help it. And although this belief may be true in some ways, it is also very wrong. Certainly, emotions are what they are. Emotions are reactions to events. However, our perceptions of events can change. I once worked with a man with serious road rage. If someone cut him off in traffic, he chased that person down and forced them to a stop. Fortunately, he was not physically aggressive against them, although they didn't know that. However, he did get out of his car and start yelling at the person about their driving behavior. This was in the days before everyone carried cell phones, otherwise he may have gotten arrested for this. I asked him, "What is your purpose?" And he told me he wanted to let people know when they were wrong so they wouldn't do it again. I then asked, "Do you think your method of educating people is effective? Or do you think that maybe people don't even hear what you are saying because they are terrified of this crazy man who chased them down?" He came to recognize that his behavior wasn't any better than theirs, and probably worse, and he wasn't achieving his goal of making the roads safer. The point of this example is that he changed his perception of the situation, and as a result was able to change his behavior. Now certainly that doesn't mean he necessarily changed his emotion. Perhaps he still became angry at people, but at least he didn't chase them down. However, it is possible to change your perspective in such a way that you may not even feel angry. For instance, have you ever been angry about something and then realized you misinterpreted the situation or the intent? In such an instance, your anger may have disappeared once you realized you were wrong. In a similar way, we are capable of using the possibility of misunderstanding to help change our perspective. In other words, we don't have to know we are wrong. Instead, we can consider that we may be wrong and give the other person the benefit of the doubt. Let's look at a simple example based upon the guy with road rage. If he thinks that person cut me off because they are inconsiderate and don't care about putting my life in danger, he is more likely to be angry. However, if he even considers the possibility that they just made a mistake, he is less likely to be angry. Maybe that person just didn't see me in their blind spot. And if he considers that there could have been a valid reason for their behavior, he may not only not be angry, but he may feel very different. Maybe that person had to swerve over to avoid an accident that could have involved me. The point of this is that every one of the thoughts I just described are speculative, including his original belief that the person was just rude and uncaring. In other words, he has no idea which one may be true, or if the truth may be totally different from any of these possibilities. This illustrates that much of the time when people become angry, it is because of what they presume to be the truth. We don't always know what the truth is. Therefore, the first step in managing anger is when you are not absolutely certain, without a doubt, that your perspective is correct, you need to redirect your thinking. I don't know why that person cut me off. If I need to make an assumption, I can choose a positive one and believe that there was a good reason. By changing your perspective in this way, you are likely to reduce your angry reaction. This method works for all sorts of situations. No matter how well you know another person, you are not inside that person's head. You do not know all the reasons for another person's behavior unless they tell you. Most of the time you are making assumptions. And if you are making an assumption, you are choosing among many possibilities which assumption to believe. Thus, if you want to control your anger, you can begin by choosing a different assumption to believe. For instance, my husband is usually late. When we were first together, I assumed that he just didn't care about my feelings. However, I came to realize that he is a very social person who enjoys talking to people and loses track of time when he's socializing. And socializing to him can mean a conversation in the grocery store. Something that could take me 15 minutes to do might take him an hour or more. But it had nothing to do with how he felt about me. It was just his nature. By recognizing this, I changed my perspective and was less likely to be angry. In addition, if it was something important that I needed him to be on time for, I would let him know that. To change your perspective, you need to examine other people's behavior from their point of view, not just your own. A concept in psychology that we call projection is the tendency to attribute to other people the reasons why we would do something. For example, a person who tends to be dishonest is more likely to believe that others are dishonest. And vice versa, those who are honest believe others are likely to be honest. Or, in my example about my husband, my original belief was based on my own behavior. The only reason I would be late is an emergency. Therefore, my original assumption was that if there is no emergency, it is inconsiderate of my husband to be late. Projection is a natural tendency, a way to understand other people's behavior. However, it can very often be wrong. Other people don't behave for the same reasons we do. So unless you want to be wrong in your assumptions, you need to look at other people's behavior from their perspective. The same behavior can mean different things to different people. So the first step in managing your anger is asking yourself if there could be other reasons for a person's behavior. Ideally, you may be able to brainstorm some possibilities. But even if you are not able to do that, at least tell yourself, my assumptions may be wrong. There could be other reasons for this behavior. Sometimes this first step is enough to dissipate the anger. However, if it is not, you may need to take other steps. It can be very helpful, for instance, to learn relaxation methods so that you can calm yourself when you are angry. It is very difficult to be fully relaxed and angry at the same time because those two emotional states are opposites. The more you can relax yourself, the more clearly you will be able to examine the situation.